Right then. I've just made it. It's just turned. It's just turned 1900 hours now. 7 o'clock. So if everyone's okay, I'm going to make a start. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, let's go.
Yes, please do.
Are we expecting any more?
No, I haven't heard from Councillor Dixon.
Okie doke. Okie doke. So, welcome all to the meeting of the Financial Management Committee meeting on Monday, the 18th of January 2021. It's now 7 p.m. I don't believe I can see any members of the public. Has anyone got anyone that's indicated they might be coming along?
No.
Okie doke. Then, if they do turn up, then I will go back and we'll give them their time. I was supposed to give public question time for 15 minutes, but if there's no one here, I'll crack on. If anyone does turn up, then we will, of course, go back and let them have their say, if that's okay with everybody. Okie doke. So, as a local parish council meeting, meetings can now be recorded. The chairman to check if anybody wishes to record the meeting to ensure any reasonable facilities can be provided. As the meeting is a virtual meeting, the deputy clerk RFO will be recording the meeting. Does anybody else want to record the meeting? Okay, item 2021-59. Accept apologies for absence.
We've got none.
Okay, to see item 60, to receive members and officers' personal disclosable pecuniary interest in items on the agenda. Has anybody got anything? Okie doke. And then 61, to consider written requests for new DPI dispensations.
We've had none.
Okie doke. And to consider whether the items on the agenda should be discussed in private session. I'm not aware of any.
No.
Okie doke. Right. So to confirm the meetings of the previous committee meeting, which was held on the 30th of November 2020, items numbered 2021 to 43. They've already been confirmed by the council, but has anyone got any matters looking at those? Anything they'd like to bring to the attention or anything? I'm not hearing or seeing anyone draw my attention to anything.
No.
Okie doke. Right then. The next item of the meeting is 2021-64. Accounts for payment. To note, the chairman of council has not used any of her chairman's allowance during her term in office so far. I think we can note that. Is that okay with everybody? And then item 2, to approve payments of the month's to date schedule of accounts for January. That's item C in your pack. Has anybody seen that?
Yep.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay, can we have a show of hands if we're going to approve that? Thank you very much. Item 2021-65, financial statements. To approve the accounting summaries, copies enclosed. I've had a look through all these and there's nothing that I can note that's untoward. Has everybody else managed to have a look through?
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with them? Does anybody want to raise any items? I'm seeing some thumbs up and everything like that. So if we can all go thumbs up if we're all okay with it. That's great. Thank you very much for that. Then for December 2020. Everybody okay with that? Thumbs up. I'm seeing lots of thumbs. That's great. Thank you very much. And then, so moving on to item 2021-66, VAT return. To note the VAT return to the end of 31st of December 2020. Has anyone got anything to raise about that? I haven't. It's only an item to note, but before we note it, is everyone okay with it? Anyone want to raise anything? It all seems fine to me. Okie doke. And item 2021-67. That's the notification of the changes to the tax base and implications for the precept and the budget. The RFO to report. Richard.
Yeah, as you, I mean, I guess because of COVID and various other things, we're perhaps in a bit of a housing slump, and the number of Band D properties, i.e. quite valuable property, quite expensive properties, has gone down. So the impact basically is that our precept will go down. You'll see in one of the later things I've added, it'll go down. I can't remember how much it was now.
Just so we know we're all talking about the right thing. The precept is what we charge to the charge that's actually put on the members of the people that reside and own a property.
Yeah.
In addition to the council tax. When you say going down, that's what we receive.
I meant the precept in terms of the £270,000 that we get from Kirklees. Essentially,
I think we call that the tax base, don't we?
The tax base is the number of households.
Yeah. But we're talking about the total precept. Not that'll go down.
Yeah,
not
right.
the precept to people.
The household charge is the same. The overall precept, the 270,000, whatever it is will come down slightly, about £1,000, I think it is. The implication basically is that, as things stand now, our budget doesn't balance because of that, and essentially we need to find that extra money from somewhere. I mean, the obvious suggestion is just to add it to the, we're already taking money from reserves. So I suggest we take an extra £1,000+ from reserves, and do it that way. It's simple. I mean, we basically do need to take it back to council just to say, to have a balanced budget, we need to do X. So that's my suggestion, is that we just take it from obviously we've got lots of reserves, so it's not going to have a huge impact to take an extra £1,000+ out. Okay,
doke. I think that's a sensible. A sensible suggestion. Anyone like to discuss that, or debate or discuss that before we actually move to take a vote that we make that recommendation to the full council? Councillor Hogley.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about how much that tax base fluctuates over the years, whether it's something we can sort of foresee for future years, because obviously in this instance we have got reserves we can draw on, which is fine, and we probably, subject to full council ratification, don't have to review our budget aspirations, but I don't know if there's a way in which we can sort of envisage the number of certain types of house increasing or going down or whatever.
I don't know whether you can really. I'll put the calculations on the screen if I can work out how to do it. Just give me a second.
It's page 76 of your the full pack, if that helps.
No, that's not the problem. I'm having difficulty with sharing the screen bit. Can you see that? I mean, as you can see, the tax base, we've got a tax base there since 2014. In every year it's gone up, apart from this current year. Every year it's gone up about, like 1,000 or so nearly every year. But this year it's down by 50, is it? Is that right? So that obviously has implications for, because our precept, the 274,000 is calculated by the tax base multiplied by the Band D property charge. It's gone down, as you can see, by about £1,500. Every other year it was going up, so it wasn't an issue really. We just had more money, but I don't know how you can tell really, other than by predicting. It's the economics of the country, I suppose, and the economics of the Home Valley.
So is it just fewer? Sorry, through you, Chair.
Yeah. It's just fewer households which are valued at the Band D valuation, basically. So because there's a bit of a housing slump, these kind of high value properties basically are fewer than they were a year ago. It's as simple as that, really.
Is it not the growth of new ones that was anticipated that meant that it was going up, rather than there are fewer large houses? Because
I think that's the case. Yeah, I think it's the projection forward that's changed.
Right.
Because there's been no general revaluation, has there?
I was going to say, is it that they're selling for less, and therefore
no,
a few of them have fallen into Band D or something?
No.
It's not about selling.
think it's
an assessment by Kirklees Council. How they go about it, I'm not entirely sure, but
Paul's indicating Councillor Davies.
yes, Councillor Davies.
Sorry, I was going to say similar to other people as well. It's not. I think we got to sort of be careful. It's not that there's less properties, is there? You know, it's because the properties just don't disappear as such. But is this? I'm not expert on this, but I think Charles mentioned. Is this a forecast that we do within the council as such, based on
tax bases? Yeah,
it is, isn't it? Because
if you want a definitive, I think it's a lad I went to school with, Graham Wild, who does it. So he works for Eamon.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I believe part of it, and I could be wrong here, but my belief that part of it is there's a calculation regarding properties that existed but won't be paying the council tax.
Well, I was going to ask that.
Because they're either empty and someone's applied for whatever reason to not pay the council tax on that property, or have it deferred, whether it's being renovated or it's empty for whatever reason, and not being, you know, for whatever reason, when there's very few nowadays when you can actually apply to have a property to not pay council tax because it's empty, but there are still a few, so that will be factored in, won't they?
Yeah.
Shall I ask Graham? Is it Graham Wild?
Yeah, but it's Graham spelt the other way.
Yeah, Graheme. Yeah. Shall I ask him for now?
And then Wild with an E.
Right. Yeah.
Because if anything, numbers of properties are increasing, and certainly in terms of council tax, they're higher value. So in terms of overall council tax payment, they're increasing. Obviously, during COVID, there would be a number of properties where people are also, not paying council tax because they're no longer in the economic position, and they've asked for help in that as well. But I think, as Michael, as you say, I know there are properties that come out for all sorts of reasons, because there was one about 3 weeks ago where they made a mistake and stopped collecting somebody's bins because they thought they were no longer paying council tax.
Charles, you've got your hand up, Charles.
Yeah, it will be correct in terms of the calculation. There's no doubt at all on that. As for a fuller explanation, Graham. Yeah, I think Graham's your man. I'm not sure about some of the suggestions, because actually this probably equates to quite a few properties. So if for a definitive, we'll need to ask Graham what's changed. I think that's the only way. But I would be absolutely certain that the calculation provided is correct, even if we don't fully understand the details of it.
I think for us, really, we if we can get a handle on why it's gone down, the reasoning of it, then we can make a prediction for ourselves and have that is this going to be an ongoing thing, that it goes down year in, year out, and something we have to factor into. I'm hopeful that it's not, but I think we need to clarify exactly the reason why our tax base is going down, just so that if that is the case, it's going to be an ongoing thing. We can put measures in place in future budgets to deal with that. Hopefully it's not, and it is an anomaly this year, but I think it's well worth asking those questions. So I think, if we could ask them of Graham Wild, how that calculation is made up and how we think it's going to be going forward. Is this going to be an ongoing thing for us? And then secondly, I suppose it's Richard's recommendation to the committee that we make a recommendation, as opposed to full council, that we take the deficit from the reserves in order to balance the budget. Paul, have you got your hand up? There's a little sort of hand thing at the bottom of your screen. I'm just wondering what that is. Oh, no, it's my mouse. Okay, so when I put my mouse over your screen, it turns into a hand. I didn't know that. Anyway,
I thought I might get arrested for something then for a minute. I was wondering, getting.
Okay, so shall we take a vote on that? Richard's recommendation. Is everyone okay with Richard's recommendation?
Michael, can I?
Yes, Rachel.
Sorry, can I just ask? Can I just clarify Are we talking about an extra 19,854 that we need to find, or is it 3,000?
No, it's 1,000, about 1,540, something like that. Is that right, Richard?
Yeah.
Because I was looking at the budget planner one and the figures in red, so I'm just not quite clear what the
Let me have a look at that.
figure is. That's the difference. Document J.
No, but the 90,000, we were already going to dip into reserves to £18,291. That had already been agreed. The difference is, as Councillor Pogson says, it's an extra 1,560 or so. So the difference between 19,854 and 18,291.
Okay, we just need to make sure that that figure is clearly presented to full council.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rather than people having to work it out, because there's a danger that people will do what I did, which is just look at the bigger figure and go, whoa, when actually it's quite a small.
The column in black of that budget is what we already agreed. So the 18,000 deficit was already agreed at full council. It's the extra 1,000.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's just a presentational thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Councillor Davis, you had your hand up then.
It was just going back to this calculation. Rich, I've just found something online which I'll send to you. But, you know, I'll read you a quick excerpt because it's perfectly clear. The tax-based figures are expressed as Band D equivalents in accordance with the relevant regulations. This means that a property in Band B will be expressed as being equivalent to 7/9 or 0.8 of a Band D property, whilst the property. I won't go any further. I'll just send it to you. Okay.
No, I mean, I've got those calculations are already in. We've already got all those.
I'm going to say you got that there, haven't you?
Why it's why the Band D amount that's changed is what we need to understand, really.
Why we've got lesser properties, basically.
No,
why have we got less money?
We haven't got lesser properties. We've got lesser properties that are high value to be in Band D, basically, and that will be because of housing prices going down because of you know, a kind of property slump.
I think yes, it's not a Band D, it's Band D equivalents, isn't it? So it's all the other bands that so if there's changes in the other bands, that changes their Band D equivalents. I think it's that. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we could just ask for clarification of that.
Sure.
Just so we get it in our heads and we can understand what we're talking about in future, and we have to factor in if the budget, if this is going to be, our precept is going to be going down, you know, what the precept that we receive, and then we need to make it, you know, make allowances for it going forward, don't we?
Sure.
Council. Okay, so I've noticed that Councillor Dixon's arrived. Welcome, Councillor Dixon. Okay, are we all okay with that making that recommendation to the full council?
Yep.
That looks to me to be carried. Is anybody against? I'm not seeing anybody, so we'll take that as carried. Okay, doke. Thank you very much. And going back to my. So then we go to to note communication tax base, to note communication calculates to confirm change of the amount of the special expense grant contingent on the change of the tax base above. Have we all noted that?
Yep.
Do you want to report on that?
I can do. You may remember last year we got this special expenses grant, which was meant to balance the fact that people in the Home Valley had stuff, we provided stuff that was normally provided by Kirklees, so the 32 pence reduction on Band D household rates was factored into that. So again, because the tax base has gone down, that grant amount will go down as well. Again, it's not by very much, but it's something that we have to kind of account for when we get the budget finalised by full council, really. but it's not a huge amount.
Okay, thank you for that, Richard. I think the other items have actually taken, although I took them in quite a different order. I don't think there's anything on that item that I've missed, is there? Anything else?
No.
No, new precept and consider revised budget. Okay. So item 2021-68 banking matters. The RFO, Richard, reports that both Home Valley Parish Council's handles banking accounts, 35-day account and the current account currently offer credit interest rates of 0. No interest is earned on either account. We are charged £25 per month for use of this current account. To consider whether we look elsewhere to bank the circa 85,000 we've currently held in the Handelsbanken current account. So I'm guessing, Richard, you're looking for approval so we can say you can go out and look and try and find us a better interest rate, providing our money is secure.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a few things to say. I mean, most banks are going to, I think probably every bank will charge now. So the £25 a month is probably not out of the ordinary. The 0% on the 35-day account seems a bit harsh, really. What's the point of having a kind of savings account if you earn 0 interest? So, but the other side of it is, I know Liz speaks to Handelsbanken quite a lot, and she's quite complimentary about them because you actually talk to actual human beings rather than reception desks. That you actually talk to people who are, of the bank rather than front desk people. So there may be reasons not to go looking, but I don't think there's any harm in having a hunt around. The difficulty is, as I found before, people don't seem to want the money. It's not like the olden days. They don't seem to want it, particularly as what we're looking for basically is somewhere to stash it rather than use it. They want us to be kind of using the money, using it as a current account, money in, money out, and so on and so forth. But that's not really what we're looking for. If we do go down that route and start using the account to pay for stuff, it will make budgeting a bit harder. I don't know whether it's something you want to consider about whether we did consider using Handelsbanken accounts for certain things, like for example, you could use it just to pay your staffing costs or just pay grants costs or things like that. It does make things a bit muddier though if you're using multiple accounts, so I'm not entirely sure what I think about that really, but
I believe, well, my opinion as chair of this committee, before I open it up to everybody else, I'll chip in my 3 pence worth. Is I believe that sort of like good service is well worth sort of like maintaining with if you do get that level of service from Handelsbanken. However, this is, our parishioners' money, and I think we have a duty to make sure that we're getting the best deal that we possibly can for them. So I think it is well worth having a look without making a decision of whether we do put it anywhere else. I think it's important that we find out what else is available out there. Yeah. I think also I'm a fan as well of the simplicity. If we're only sort of running our current account out of one account and not got 2 bank accounts to reconcile or 3 bank accounts to reconcile, I think that's easier for us to all to understand, but I think it's well worth finding out what's out there. Would anybody else like to chip in?
I'd only chip in one other thing really. I mean, part of the reason we were thinking about having multiple accounts was to basically protect the money. You may remember that we kind of covered for, I can't remember how much it was now, was it like £90,000? But some of that problem was relieved by the fact that we have the precept split into 2 these days. So it's not quite as big an issue as it was when we got £280,000 in a big lump. So it might not be quite so necessary a thing to do. But I can certainly have a look around.
Thank you. That'd be good. That'd be much appreciated. Is everybody okay with that? Great stuff. Thank you for that, Richard. Okay. Item 2021-69, statement of intent on training. To receive a report of any training by councillors, officers since the last finance management meeting, attendees to report. So we have the following. Has anybody got anything to report rather than calling your names out and holding you to account? Has anybody want to chip in anything?
Councillor Collins got a hand up.
Councillor Collins.
In addition to the ones on that list, I did last Wednesday a Zoom training on the internal audit.
Okay, was it good, Pat?
Yes, and I mean, I learned it was not brilliant, but it was fine.
Okay, adequate. Okay, Councillor Blacker.
Yes, I did the session on broadening your planning knowledge, the webinar, which was all about how to make better and defensible planning decisions. It was actually quite useful because it did cover some wider issues, including the white paper and the community infrastructure levy. And there's quite a lot about avoiding bias and making decisions on behalf of the community, not individuals. So yeah, I don't think the presentation of these things is terribly good, but yeah, the content was fine.
Okie doke. Have we?
Councillor Hogley's got a hand up.
Councillor Hogley.
Yeah, as per the list, I did budgeting webinar. I'm just looking back at my notes from it. There were a few, I mean, it was sort of a fairly basic introduction to budgeting and reserves and that sort of thing, which didn't add a lot over and above what the Deputy Clerk had already provided us actually earlier that month. But there were one or two things I just thought were quite interesting. They said nearly 1,000 councils have less than £1,000 annual income. I thought was a good reminder of a larger parish council than many. And one of the things they were highlighting was the level of reserves that any council has is really dependent on the level of risk. So they were highlighting that there's quite a few councils that run, for example, car parks or cemetery services or beach huts. There are a whole range of different things, which they've been affected enormously by the COVID restrictions. And actually, we've been we haven't really in terms of any income, because we don't have that dependency on other income flows. And the final thing I thought was quite interesting was where they talked about how you should continually be reviewing your budget as you go through the year, which obviously we're doing in terms of percentage spent, but actually rather than they said you should consider revising your current year's plan rather than saying, well, that's the budget and we'll just overspend, underspend. You can review the budget sort of during the year, which is a slightly different way from how I'd always thought of us looking at our finances. So I just thought that was quite an interesting point. But it was quite useful. It was, I mean, as with all these things, it's bits of it you already know, but I think there are always useful nuggets to be had from these sessions. There's a good range of training on offer, so I'd encourage people to take the opportunity if and when they have the time.
Good, thank you for that, Councillor Hogley. I don't believe that Catherine O'Halloran has sent us a bit of a report on her training and attire that I'm aware of. Could someone on the climate emergency webinar, climate emergency committee, have a chat with her, just ask her how that went, and just so she can have some feedback, whether even if it's just a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I think Councillor Blacker's doing it. That's right, isn't it, Councillor Blacker? You're doing climate emergency, aren't you?
No.
No. Well, I could have sworn I got an invoice through with your name on it today. I wonder if she's put that down wrong. Right. Okay. Don't worry. Ignore me.
Something for you to chase up there, Richard, tomorrow. Okay. And then planning committee. Does Mary want to report on the session that we had from Teresa Harlow and Joanna Scrutton from Kirklees Planning?
Yes, I can. Yes, I thought this was really useful. It took quite a long time to actually set it up because of the pressure on committee time. So we submitted questions in advance. I asked committee members to submit questions, and so we sent them off in advance, so they got time to prepare. Which is why Joanna Scrutton came as well as Teresa Harlow, because some of the questions were in areas for which she's responsible. So again, we had another trot around the white paper, which is looming very large. The NDP and climate emergency, and really how the planning commission, the parish council, can work effectively with Kirklees, which maximises the local knowledge that we've got, and doesn't mean too much duplication of work. This is going to be a start of a dialogue, I think. So maybe perhaps repeat the exercise in about 6 months' time. And even since the meeting, both of them have actually sent us through some really useful documents as well. So yeah, I think it was a valuable exercise.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Dixon.
One thing I've found this out before with Kirklees officers, they want the answers before you give them the questions. I like people that think on their feet. If you're doing a job and you're doing it right, you should be able to think on your feet. You should be able to be asked questions and be able to give answers straight away. I just felt that there was a lack of that. They didn't seem as if they could make a decision there and then. I found that out with Kirklees planning officers. You go down and meet with them. You don't talk to the people that you used to talk to. It seems totally alien now to what it used to be. In the good old days, you knew where you stood with it. But now, they change it according to how they feel. And I was a bit distraught with what she said when I asked a question about a brownfield site, knowing well that we've got one at Jackson Bridge, and it is in a green belt area, but it's a brownfield site, which is the garage. It was an industrial unit. The toilets were industrial units. And she said, and she couldn't give me an answer, which is what I was looking for, because I think that site's been badly dealt with because of some problems. I don't know who's caused the problems. I have a good idea who has, but I don't want to say any more. But that site should have been developed some time since, and she didn't seem to know what the answer was to brownfield in the brown belt in the green belt, a brownfield site, and that I was disappointed with.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Dixon. Okay, has anyone else got any feedback from any training that maybe not down here? No. Okay, then. So moving on to item 2021-70, proposed elevator grant to Home First Arts Festival to consider whether to give £1,000 to Home First Arts Festival to a total of £2,000 for Art in the Woods project. This would be, if approved, meaning recommending council hiring £1,000 from elsewhere in the council's budget or reserves. I think we did discuss that we wanted to support this, but we need to come up with a reason. It's a project where we can get the money from. Councillor, Richard, and then Councillor Hogley.
Oh, I was just going to say, and it's whether things have changed, I suppose, as well. I mean, obviously we're in a different situation than we were then in terms of lockdown and so on and so forth. So,
Councillor Hogley.
Well, there's two things, I suppose. I guess the fact is that the finance and management has a limit of £1,000, so really we shouldn't go above that. Yeah. That said, though, the Arts Festival is in the next financial year, so there's no reason the Arts Festival couldn't be brought forward as something to apply from next year's budget. Obviously, then they couldn't reapply in that following year. But I'm conscious we've still got, I can't remember what the number was now because I've just closed the screen, but it's about £4,000 left in grants for F&M. So actually, we're not short on grants money. It's just £1,000, I think, unless I've misread something.
Yeah, your recollection of things are as I see them as well, Councillor Hogley. Richard, is that right?
Yeah. It's just obviously this is more than we
normally give.
More than we normally give. It's not that the money's not there. It's just more than we would normally give.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'd say is that there's a possibility that we could wait until the end of our. Well, I guess I'm just looking at the schedule of meetings. Our last meeting before beginning of April would be the 1st of March. And at that point, that would be when we received any final grant applications. And therefore, dependent on what applications were made then, if we had money left, I don't know whether we can make the case that we would consider giving £1,000 at that point.
I would be happier to make a case to give someone some more money when we know there's no further other grants coming in, rather than now when they'd have to turn someone down at a later date. I think there was Charles Greaves had his hand up to make a contribution, and there's Councillor Dixon. So I'll take Charles first and then Councillor Dixon and then Councillor Hall. Sorry, Councillor Hall, I didn't see you there.
The main issue with this was about the amount of the grant that can be provided by F&M. Yeah. So there is a way through it, and it's the chairman's allowance is the simple one. So there's the £1,000 grant from F&M. The chair could use their allowance to provide another £1,000. I'm absolutely certain it's been done in the past. The issue would be, I guess, of even if there was money left over in the budget, it's a case of if somebody was awarded £2,000, you're back to the bit of why did they get 2 when we've told everybody else it's limited to 1. So it's one of those. It's been done in the past, and it could do again, and it sidesteps a lot of issues as well. But it's entirely dependent upon the choice of the chair. But that would be one way of getting through it. Okay.
Councillor Dixon.
I don't think it's a way of getting through it. I don't want to see anybody abusing the situation. We've got an amount. These people are going twice because they normally get a grant towards the event. This is something totally different. It is something totally against my views of what the council money should be spent on. I don't know why it is, but they don't gel with me, these people that run this. And their ideal situation of closing Holmfirth down when it's normally the festival day and making it so that it's difficult for other things. They're going to now wanting to broaden themselves and spread it out and take more money and looking for extra grants. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't feel for them, and I don't feel what we're doing. If we're going to get the chairman to give it, the chairman has other things which they can get, which are more better or more probably in the chairman's interest to give to other parties. I'd rather see small amounts to small groups, and never mind somebody like this that's trying to make a business out of it. I don't like the idea, and I'm dead against it. And I would have voted against the £2,000 grant anyway, because that's totally in abuse when other people need it.
Thank you for that considered contribution, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Hall.
Yes, thank you for this. I mean, I've said this time and time again. What we do for one group, we have to do for others. And I think that needed or not this money, we have to be very careful that we aren't favouring some groups over others. If our grant limit's £1,000, then I'm afraid I think that we ought to have to stick to it, whether there are financial arrangements different or their needs are greater than others. We've got a set figure, and I think we should stick to it. And we don't want to be found out that we're favouring one group over another. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Have we any further contributions? And have we a firm proposal? Councillor Hogley.
Can I just ask a question of the Deputy Clerk? If in the instance that, let's say in March, we don't have sufficient applications to apply for all the remaining grant money, where does that grant money go into? Obviously it goes into reserves, but does it get earmarked as, can it be earmarked as additional grants money? I'm conscious next year we've got £20,000 of grant money, or does it just go into the general reserves?
It would just go into general reserves unless the council made a decision to earmark it. It's as simple as that.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a proposal that if there is money left over at the end of the grant year, that we increase the grant available for next year, and we put it onto next year's money so that it can be spread out among other people more than just this one individual company. I don't want to see this money being left for those people at the end of the term, because there's other people that could have probably asked for £1,500 that just asked for £1,000 because they knew that's what was the maximum they're going to get. So I think rather than abuse the situation by doing that, leave it and add it onto the amount that is left at the end of the year, so that we've got an extra £1,000 to give him in grants next year.
I believe the budget for next year has already been increased. Is that right, for grants? So that's already occurred, Councillor Dixon.
Well, nevertheless, whatever it's been increased to, add this £1,000 on so that we have the ability to look after more people.
I don't think that's quite how we can run the finances at the very, I don't think we can legally, or, that would be financially prudent to do that. Councillor Davids.
Yeah, I take on board, we have got £1,000 limit, and I think the comments about we have to be really careful about what we do around that, I think I accept. I don't, I think there are, a few things that could be quite misleading. This isn't a profit-making company in that sense. This is a community group, which is putting on something which is really pretty fundamental to the identity of the town, and certainly helps us economically as well, let alone anything else in terms of the cultural impact. So I do think it's something that we definitely, and we have always anyway, supported, but I think it's fair, that we have currently got a limit, but of course there's nothing to stop the Arts Festival applying for a grant in our next financial year. And I think maybe, Councillor Hogley, that's where you were coming from, that if there's money left over, then that's year mark, that rolls over, and then they can apply next year. And that may, that may be the simple way of us getting through this.
So what I'm getting from the debate, and please shout and wave your arms and let me know if I've got this wrong. I think from the debate, we're looking at a proposal that we're consistent that the £1,000 limit is adhered to in this instance, in this financial year. And if they want to apply in the next financial year, then we will look on the basis of the merits of their application at that time. So I'm going to put that forward as a proposal. Does anybody want to second that? Okay, I've got Councillor Colling, I think, there had a hand up first. So all those in favour with that suggestion? I think that's being carried by the looks of that. Thank you all for your contribution there. Thank you. Okay, item 2021-71. Financial records for website. To note, financial records for November, December 2020 have been uploaded to the council website, accessible from quick links. Can we note that, everybody? I think items noted. Yeah. Representation. To receive a report if any of our representative outside bodies have a report. Has anybody got any from been to any outside bodies? I haven't, and I can't see anybody else with their hands up. Okie doke. If that's where we are, thank you very much indeed for your attendance and your contributions today and helping it make a very swift and comprehensive meeting. Thank you all, and I wish you all, the rest of January. Let's see.